Getting us going with the recording. Thank you. So I'm calling the Tuesday, March 16th regular board meeting of the Millbrook Library to order at 7:04 with a quorum present. And we're starting out our meeting this evening. We have two guests, Meredith and Elliot from the Bank of Millbrook, and we're going to get a 2020 recap of the library investments. So Meredith and Elliot, we are glad you're here and look forward to hearing your report.
So the big question is, Courtney, can you give me permission so I can share my report?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let me see.
You work on that, and I'll yak a little bit. So I do know a lot of you. Hello, Michael. For those of you that don't know us, I run the Trust and Wealth Management Group. Hello. For the Bank of Millbrook, and Elliot is our trust officer. We've been running this endowment and managing the assets for many years. And part of what I like to start these off, and especially because I haven't talked to you guys and it feels like a really long time, is just a reminder of the monies that you have invested with us and where they came from, a little bit of the history of them. If I talk too fast or, I say something you don't understand, please just stop me, wave your hand and yell at me or something. There's basically two trust funds with the bank. One is what we call the Library Tribute Fund. It used to be called the Parking Lot Fund. And basically there was a parking lot that I think the Tribute Garden bought from the library. And those funds are the library's monies. You can do whatever you want with them. Historically and at present, we just pay the income of it to you. But it is a rainy day fund. If you ever need something for a big project or whatever, those funds are available to you. The second and much larger account is the endowment. And that is actually a trust which was set up in 1929 as a charitable trust. And in 1929, they named the Bank of Millbrook as the sole trustee. It produces a 99 PF. It is tax-free. We can do all sorts of things. We can raise capital gains without having to pay taxes on it, which is nice. That trust, the library's only allowed the income from it, and you get a monthly income, and then at the end of the year, we sweep the remaining income from it. But you can never touch the principal of it, is the way that it's been set up. So with that said, I hope I can share my...
Yeah, Meredith, you should have permission to do it down at the bottom of the Zoom screen.
Woohoo! Look at that. Elliot and I have done a few of these on Zoom, but I still feel like I'm not great at it. So, so the first thing I like to start off with is just a little economic overview. And holy moly, what a year last year was. Exactly a year ago, I think the market dropped 12% today. And the whole month of March last year, we had a decline of about 37% for the stock market, which was just mind-blowing. There were lots of things we were worried about, didn't know what on earth a pandemic was going to do to the economy. And I've been in the business long enough that I remember very vividly 2008 and 2009 and how terrifying that was. Knew we needed to stay in the market, but there were a lot of questions out there. And surprise, surprise, it turned out to be a great year in the market, particularly if you were in any of the tech stocks, which that sector just knocked the doors off. It just came really flying back. And this chart that I have in front of you that looks really colorful and there's lots of stuff on it. We like to pull this up. It's called the Quilt Chart. And if you'll look at basically the line item of 2020, you'll see the by asset class, what was the top performing assets, and then go down. And you'll see that US equities performed about 21.4%. With down at the very bottom, cash didn't do very well, infrastructure, global real estate. And if you'll bring your eye to the black boxes where it says 60-40, that represents a 60-40 investment account, meaning 60% in equities, 40% in fixed income or bonds, which is very representative of the trust account. Now I have to move, oh, there we go. I have everybody on the wrong side. If you look at the 10-year column over on the very right-hand side, you'll see over the past 10 years, this represents what these different asset classes have done over the past 10 years. And a 60-40 count performed about 7.4%. And that's pretty much where the trust has performed. We're pretty much right in line with that. So that was looking backwards. Now looking forwards, which is again challenging in coming out of a pandemic year. While there's a lot of enthusiasm about the economy, last year the economy ended up being down a little under 4%, which was the first time in 30 years we've seen a dip like that. The economy last year was horrible. Weirdly, the market did really well. This year, most economists and professionals are looking at sort of the opposite, where, and the numbers keep getting revised, that the economy is just going to go flying open. We've even heard estimates of a 9% growth rate, which would be, the US has never seen that, but it's tempered with what the actual market's going to do. The enthusiasm is that we'll see a positive market year, but not quite as fantastic as last year's. And what this chart shows, on the bottom, you'll see the different numbers. And from 1980 to 2020, the annualized return on the world index, and that's basically representing equities, was about 9.7%. We work with a large wealth management bank called Northern Trust, and they're looking at a forecast of about 6.1% for the next 10 years in the markets. That's a huge change. It's going to include great years last year and some pretty bad years. So we're expecting some volatility. We're not looking at the kind of growth that we've seen in the past. So that's a challenge for us as money managers. The second row is the Ag Bond Index, and bonds are, if you've gotten a CD or you've refinanced your mortgage, you know that bonds are at a historic lows. The 10-year Treasury finished out last year at 0.9%, the 10-year Treasury. A year before it was at 1.8%. So, and we're not expecting that to change anywhere before the next 3 years. We're expecting interest rates to stay really low. So, that 60-40 portfolio that we were looking at a 9.2% return over the past 20, 30 years, we're looking at a 4.7% return, which is sobering. It's something to think about and know what's happening. Any questions? No. The next, this is, I don't know what to do with everybody. There we are. The next is basically the statements of accounts. And the first one I'd like to cover is the tribute fund. This is the smaller account. It is in cash, ETF, and mutual funds, exchange traded funds. So we have some in equity, some in fixed income. I'm just sort of zooming through this. The bottom line, and this is through December 31st, 2020, the market value was $410,000 and our yield was 1.96%. The next page is basically some of the tradings that we've done in the account. And this account, we basically allocate the funds and rebalance them once a year, which we're in the process of doing right now. And I do have to say there are going to be some changes in the rebalance. We're getting rid of some of the funds, and one of the things we're trying to do is to chase yield a little bit. We're going to add some mutual funds that have preferred stocks in them, which have very high yields. We're also moving towards less of the global. We got rid of the global minimum volatility fund, and are replacing it with more of a growth and small mid cap fund so that we can hopefully get a little more juice and growth into this account. This page here is actually the market performance for the year. And you will see, we started the year in January with 391,000. Interest and dividends were $9,700. We withdrew $3,000, which represents what we send to you guys on a monthly basis. The actual market change, the account grew by 15,000. The fees are what our fees are on an annualized basis, and we ended up the year at 410. And then the return information is on the bottom. Year to date is the 1 year return, as is the 1 year return, which was 6.5%. We've averaged 6.6% over 3 years. And since inception, which was January of 07, the account has averaged 7.36%. So I'm going to keep going if nobody's going to ask a question. This again is a lot of numbers, but Elliot and I have been sharing this performance chart because it's a good example of what we do at the Bank of Millbrook. We tend to be very conservative investors. We want to make sure that our clients get a good return, but we also want to preserve their wealth. And if you look at the year 2020 and what the account did in February and March, in March particularly, it was down 10%. When the stock market itself, the whole market was down 37%. So we really protected the account on the downswing. And then year to date, where you see that red YTD, this shows the market returns on the account for every year. And we've had some good years and we've had some not so good years. Again, if you look at 2008 all the way down, you'll see that that was a horrible year. But in 2009, by staying in the market, the account was able to come back and earn a little bit more. So we're big believers in staying in for the long term. Okay, so now I'm on to the big one. Everybody's good? Hopefully still awake. Let's see, I have to get rid of. So we have updated this spreadsheet every time we see you guys, and we used to come on a quarterly basis, happy to do that, or twice a year, whatever's good for the committee. We actually started tracking this, I think, in 2010, and I lopped off 2010 and back because you couldn't even see the numbers. It was getting so long and squishy. So I hope that's okay. And if you want to see those numbers, I'm happy to share them with you. So this shows the large endowment where I think in 2010 we were closer to about $4 million. The account's pretty much almost doubled in quite a while. And you will see the investment income that has come out of it, net gains and losses per year, the expenses, which again are our fees. And I know I mention this every time, but I find it my duty to, because it's kind of a cool thing for the library. As investment advisors, we typically charge about 1% on an account this large, maybe a little less annualized per year. This trust, the fees were set up, I think it was like $30 a year. It was insanely low. So we went to court and asked for a change in the fees to pay us for what the work we were doing. And we charged 30 basis points on this account, which is extremely low charge. So that's what that $27,000 represents. And then income paid out, and you'll see from 2014, the income paid out is actually what the library is getting in their pocket. And in 2014, you were getting 142, and last year you're up to 174. So that's a nice growth. And a large part of that is because we've been able to grow the corpus of the trust. Do I have a question? No. The next page is actually an inventory of the trust. And this is through December 31st. There's quite a lot of cash on hand, which I think we have already invested, and we're actually working on some updates to this account, which Elliot has started working on for us. We're now to the point where we like to see cash at about 1.5%, primarily because cash is paying absolutely nothing. So if we have to sit on cash, we're at least sweeping it into a short-term bond fund. But the account is very diversified by sectors. We like high dividend paying stocks. You'll see names in there that you probably recognize, like McDonald's and Tractor Supply, General Mills, Coca-Cola. Last year, energy got clobbered in a huge way. I think it was down in a total 35%. Schlumberger is a company that it's in our crosshairs. It's gotten really beat up, but we didn't want to sell it last year with energy down as far as it did. And we're still hanging on to it. So you see a big goose egg loss on that asset, but it is climbing back already from last year. So we think it's worth hanging on to. Some of the financials, we like the financials we have in there. We're also thinking about retweaking them, possibly adding a company called Marsh & McLennan, which gives a little diversity. They're an insurance servicing company. Well represented in the healthcare industries. Communication services, which is Verizon and AT&T, which are really nice stocks to have because they have super high dividends. And one area that you guys are well represented, and I'm very happy about, is information technology. You have about 20% of the portfolio in IT. And you'll see that IT in general isn't a high dividend paying area. It's hard to get good dividends from IT, but they're what is giving us the growth. So we're happy that we're well represented in the IT area. The multi-classification, this is another area that I think we're going to move around some of the investments. We're starting to look at adding, I think, as I mentioned with the other account, some preferred stocks to get some dividends out of the investments. And we're going to keep infrastructure, but I think we're going to get rid of the global real estate and the natural resources and see if we can find some better areas for growth or income, one or the other. And then going into fixed income, you guys have a lot of really nice bonds. I wish I could buy these bonds today. The bonds that you have, we're holding on to until they mature. We can't pick up bonds with these kind of yields now. We're looking at the kind of bonds that we like, which are high quality bonds. They're very expensive and the yields are under 2%. So we're pretty happy with the bonds that you have. And you'll see at the very top, I've got where Vanguard investment grade and short-term bond funds. That's where we put the short-term bond fund is extra cash if you should need it. And those two funds are giving us some nice yields. So the overall yield on the trust itself is 2.35. This is the buy-sell list. We picked up a few bonds last year, as well as American Tower, which is in the 5G business. They're sort of a real estate investment trust, and they buy properties for 5G towers. So we thought that might be a good growth spot. And this is our sell list. Most of these are matured bonds. We did sell Simon Properties back in April, and Simon Properties owns malls. And in the height of the pandemic, we were getting a little worried about what was going to happen to malls in a pandemic. You still hold some Simon Properties, which is actually good because they have since recovered and done pretty nicely, but we're still not adding to it or going back into it. The returns, and you'll see the returns on this account are pretty nice. Again, the laundry list of where we began in January, the interest and dividends, the withdrawals to you guys, the market change, the fees, and then the ending market value. And last year we almost hit 10% for return. And since inception on this account, again, it's dated 07, it's averaged about 6.8%. And again, you can, and I did not mail this to anybody, but I'm happy to mail it to the group if you'd like us to. We took out the account numbers so we can do it without doing a secure email, but you'll see through time what the account has performed. And that's it.
Well, thank you, Meredith. Does anyone have any in particular questions for Meredith?
Yeah, sure. I have a question. I know the technology stocks you said don't provide much of like income or yield for us, but they tend to grow a lot. What is your strategy? Like, do they eventually grow to the point where you sell them and then buy other options that are providing like a yield? Because, you know, it would just, not that I'm worried about it, but, you know, eventually their value is going to push up the fee that we're charged as opposed to providing any sort of income for us.
Right. Good question. Well, so, you know, it's a real problem for us when we look at Apple. We have so many accounts that have overweights to Apple. And if we see one asset that represents over 10% of the portfolio, we tend to pare it back for risk purposes, because if that asset then gets really clobbered, it's very painful for the account. And where we've been taking profits off of some of the tech stocks, and we're constantly aware of trying to goose the income because that's important to you guys. And some of the preferreds that I was talking about is one way that we're thinking about doing that. But we'd really like to see the IT area at about 20%. The S&P's at 25%. So you're actually underweighted the S&P. And more with what we'd be looking for if we kept the money in IT is new ideas. I know Elliot's started, and I'll let Elliot talk about it. He has a new company that he's been adding to the portfolios called KLA.
It's KLAC. It's they're a semiconductor company. There's a chip shortage right now, so there'll be different ways to play that. Intel would be one way, being the largest chip manufacturer in the country. KLAC is a semiconductor manufacturing industry. It's a mouthful to say that. Basically, if Intel needs to make a bunch of machinery to make silicone wafers, KLAC is one of a handful of companies that do that. Everything seems to have chips in them these days. Everything from your car, which is where the shortage seems to be focused in particular in this country. They can't turn out enough cars right now because there's a chip shortage. So as a result of that, you know, Intel today, for example, did incredibly well. It's gone up, but companies like KLAC have had sort of much faster growth. They pay a small dividend. You know, I think, you know, going back to what Meredith was saying, that, you know, the information technology stocks do give you fantastic growth. You know, compared to the rest of the industry, like energy, for example. Let's say you had all your eggs in one basket. We're not suggesting that, but if you're going for a very, very high yield, you know, energy pays a fantastic yield. But let's say all of your accounts and all the $8 million were invested in energy, you know, you would have an increase in yield, but, you know, if this past year your account would have dropped by half. So by having the diversification spread across a bunch of different sectors, you can, if you need to take profit and sell down some of the information technology, Apple's getting to the point where it probably will need to start shaving some off the top, because it's growing to about 10% of the asset class. But again, that growth, we can balance that to make sure that we're providing enough income for you guys, but at the same time, we also want to experience the growth. And information technology doesn't yield the same amount, but it's still yielding 1.27% in this account, and that's not horrible. It's not ideal, but it's giving you fantastic growth, which is the reason that the account went from in I think 6 years time, it went from about 4 million to 8 million. A lot of that had to do with information technology, in particular Apple. So having that diversification allows you to experience the growth, and then we get the yield as well from having diversification, but it is a safety net.
Yeah.
And KLAC produces, they produce the manufacturing. Sorry.
Oh, no.
KLAC produces equipment that makes manufacturing, unless I'm breaking up. Thanks.
A little bit. The other thing that just the board, and thank you, Mark, I hope we answered that question for you. I think we give you $11,000 a month or $11,500 a month. And at the end of the year, we're able to sweep a chunk of money. You can always increase that monthly amount instead of having us transfer at the end of the year a large amount. So, you've got some flexibility on how much money you get on a monthly basis. And the other thing we typically ask you, I don't think you've ever touched the tribute fund since I've been here, but if there's some big thing on the horizon that you may need $50,000 or $60,000 out of that fund, we always like to know way ahead of time, because we'd rather raise the money, when the market's good and we know you need it, than doing it at the last minute.
Well,
that sounds good. Good to know.
Good. Well, thank you for having us, and I hope we'll see you in person in 3 months.
That would be amazing. That would be great.
Yeah, here's hoping.
If you don't mind, when you get a chance, if you could send your report around, that would be really helpful.
We will do. We'll send it off to Mark and Courtney, and they can share it with the group. But
great.
Thank you, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time.
Meredith.
You're
Thanks, Elliot.
welcome.
I'm sorry I was a little bit late.
Thanks, Meredith.
Oh,
Thanks,
that's okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you soon.
have a
Thanks,
good night,
guys.
everybody.
Bye,
Thank
bye,
you,
Elliot. Thank you.
Bye.
Is that bye for us too, or no? Or do we
We're all
skip everything?
done. All right, let's dig in here. So we're going to start with the February 16th meeting minutes, which Carrie sent around. There's two sets where we kind of had the annual meeting and then the regular meeting. So we'll just take them as a whole. So I just want to check and see if there's any discussion or questions on either of the minutes for February. Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 16th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Kay seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm assuming the people that are on the phone and off camera are also voting.
Yes,
Aye.
Great.
I just got
Thank
home.
you.
I'm sequestered to the bedroom right now. I got dogs and kids all over the place.
Oh, okay.
These
Gotcha.
seconds. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Thank you, James. All right, we don't have any public or employee visitors today. So for my president's report, I just want to, kind of say, it's been a year that we've been doing these Zoom board meetings, which seems insane to me. And I'm really hopeful that that will be over in the not too distant future. So I hope to be meeting with you all in person in the library before we know it. So we'll keep the light at the end of the tunnel. I think we can see it. I also just want to say the Turning Outward program, which is part of our strategic planning process, our team is starting the training, getting ready for that. We're starting this week. So it's very exciting. And we look forward to giving you updates as we move along with that process. And I guess now I will turn it over to Courtney for her report.
All right. So I have to kind of second you, Jody. I can't wait to actually meet in person. It'll be my first in-person board meeting. Still hasn't happened, so I can't wait for that either. I just wanted to start off with some COVID updates. So as of March 17th, library staff is now eligible to be vaccinated in New York. And this, I think, was a result of a lot of advocacy and a lot of hard work by a lot of people. So this was a long time coming, I think. I've told every, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just
okay.
saying, great news.
Yeah. I've told everyone, like in staff-wise, that getting vaccinated is not mandatory, but is really encouraged. And part of the thing that I need to provide is a letter certifying that people work at the library. So I've prepared to do that for when people get their appointments, they can prove that they're actually eligible for it. So that'll be pretty exciting. Also, a COVID update, starting in April, I would like to lift the seating restrictions. I'd like to keep the computer restrictions in place a little bit longer still. However, I'm kind of flexible on that. Just because I feel like things have been getting better and people are getting vaccinated, and it might be time to lift that a little bit. But at the same time, I don't want to get too cocky about things. So I'm trying to find that balance. But I do think the seating restrictions could be lifted in the next couple of weeks, and people could come in and read the newspapers again and all of that. Were there any questions on COVID stuff? Okay. For building updates, I think I told you all last time that our bathrooms have to be gender neutral now, as per New York State law, starting on March 23rd. They're all single-use bathrooms, and they all meet that qualification. So our new bathroom signs have arrived, and Scott will be putting them up before March 23rd. I think he's coming in tomorrow, actually, to put them up. So that'll be really nice. I tried to pick out signs that were as neutral as possible. So there's like a picture of a toilet, and there's an updated accessibility symbol, and underneath that it says all gendered restroom, and then there's Braille underneath, so we meet the ADA compliance. So I think they look pretty nice, but you can come in and tell me what you think when they're up tomorrow. Michael sent me the facility plan for our building, and I've been working to fill in the gaps where I can, so that's kind of a work in progress still. It's just taking time to dig through information and find the last time things have been updated. But I think we're up to date on like all of our inspections and everything, which made me happy. I knew where to find that information. My last building update is that Jeffrey Van Tassel, he's fixed our boiler bearing assembly. So that is officially done, and our backup is in place in case the other one breaks now. So that feels good. For collection updates, I'm really excited to announce that we started digitizing the Bennett collection. There have been 4 staff members working on this project. There's Tom, Brenda, Rebecca, and me right now. And we're making slow but steady progress through the first box of documents, and we've already scanned over 200 pages. It's definitely going to take a long time, but I think we have a group of people that are really interested in it. Like, I know just going through the folders is super interesting for me, even though I don't have a lot of time to do it. But Brenda and Rebecca particularly are using a lot of their time off desk to work on this project and are really excited about what they're finding already. So I think this is going to be a really cool thing that we can announce to the community pretty soon. For development and grant updates, the Dutchess County Libraries as a group have applied for the Dutchess Reads grant. If the grant is approved, we'll have about $46,000 to spend on children and teen materials in Overdrive as ebooks and audiobooks. And we're also going to have about $4,000 for advertising purposes on social media. And I volunteered to be part of the purchasing team that's working on building the carts throughout the year to purchase. So that's kind of fun for me. I get to see what areas are lacking in our collection and fill those. So I think this is not the first time I think the Dutchess County Libraries have applied for the grant as a group, but I think last year we weren't involved in that. But this year we are, so it's better.
So Courtney, for that,
yeah.
the amount of money, is that for the whole group, the 46,000 and the 4,000?
Yeah, so basically, since we're purchasing the content on Overdrive, it's available to all of the libraries, and
Gotcha. Okay,
we're
okay.
kind of doing it as a group thing instead of doing our own separate things.
Okay, good.
For finance, just my quick little note, which I think Mark has too, is that I submitted the PPP forgiveness loan, but I think he'll have more to say about that. For the Friends haven't had another meeting yet. I know there's been talk about it, but I'm still waiting to see what they want to do. And the foyer is coming along. The painting is done, and we just ordered the ceiling tiles, or are in the process of ordering the ceiling tiles, and we ordered the carpet. A table came in today, so I think we're really getting there, and it looks really good. If you haven't come in to see how it's going, it looks very good so far. So I think it's going to look fantastic when it's all done. Are there any questions on anything that I've talked about so far? Okay. So I have a new thing on my report, which is the Literary Festival. Myself, Abby, and Kristen have all kind of joined the Literary Festival committee, and I just wanted to give you an update on what we're thinking for that. So from our last meeting, it looks like the festival is going to be held in September and potentially along with Community Day, which is tentatively planned for September 11th, I believe. And right now we're looking at having a month-long event instead of just a one-day event. So Kristen, Abby, and I have created a plan for an event for kids specifically that we really want to do on the same day as the Community Day. And it would basically involve a couple of story times, one with Abby, one with a local author, some craft programs, a scavenger hunt, some games, and I think it would be I think it would be really fun. But I'll have more on that as we kind of flesh out the plan more and get closer to the date. I just wanted to give you all a heads up that we're doing stuff there. For the Mid-Hudson Library System, I just wanted to report that Advocacy Week was a success. I think Rebecca, the director of Mid-Hudson, said that it was the second best advocacy day that she could remember, which was kind of cool considering how we had to do it this year. I attended the 2 virtual meetings with our representatives, and they were very well received. I think they both of them listened a lot, and that was really nice. And it seems like overall there's just a lot of support in Albany this year for library funding, so we'll see how that actually plays out. And also our annual report was officially submitted and approved by Mid-Hudson, so that is good to go, which means my next step with that is to start working on the annual report to the community that gets mailed out. It seems like I just did it, but I think I did it late last year, so it's at least it's fresh in my mind and how to do. So at some point I'll probably be asking you all to look it over and review it and approve it before it gets mailed out. So an update for outreach. A lot of this is COVID related, so I wanted to let you all know that I reached out to Tim, our mayor, and the Millbrook Pharmacy, and I offered the library building as a space for vaccines for people to get vaccinated, and I think they said they were okay, and they're planning on using the Grace Church, but they appreciated the offer, and I let them know that if we can help in any way, just to let us know. The Dutchess County directors expressed interest in a video that would help explain to people how to sign up for vaccines. So I opened my mouth and volunteered to make one. So the Dutchess County Libraries have been sharing it on social media. I put it on our website, and it's just kind of to answer some questions like for people who are confused about how to actually sign up for vaccines and all that. We have added information about vaccine appointments for seniors and people who don't have internet access on our due date slips. Because so much of this information is being spread online, I figured that would kind of be a good way to reach people that don't have internet. So that information is it's a phone number to call and the directory steps to reach the right people to get on the list for a vaccine. And we're also offering to help anybody who wants to find a vaccine appointment at the library online. So we will actually sit down with people and walk them through the steps on how to fill out the vaccine information form. So we're doing as much as we can. I'm trying to think of as many ways as possible to reach out and help people with this, just because, one, I think it's the right thing to do, and people trust us as a good source of information, and two, I think everybody just wants to go back to what was normal as soon as possible. So we're trying to do our part.
That's great, Courtney. And have you had people take advantage of this?
Not yet, but it's only been a week, so I'm hopeful that once we get the word out more, that people will actually like start coming in. And we have, I forgot to put in my report, we have little postcards at the front desk too with information about how people can call and stuff. So, I'm just trying to spread the word as much as possible. So if you know anybody that doesn't know how to sign up for a vaccine or needs help, please point them to us because we can definitely help them with that.
Courtney, do they have to be Millbrook residents?
I'll help anybody, honestly. So my answer is no.
Yeah, because I know somebody maybe that might need help. So cool.
Yeah, definitely point them our way.
Okay, thanks.
Courtney, thank you for doing that video too.
Yeah.
That was nice of you to do, but also it kind of reflects very well on our library that you did that for them.
Yeah, I think a lot of the directors and social media people who shared it were nice enough to give us credit for it, which was pretty cool. So, so my next thing I have is an update on the poetry line. So the library is partnering with the Millbrook Arts Group for a poetry celebration in April. And if you haven't heard about this, the arts group is working on printing out a bunch of poems and artwork to go in local business storefront windows and also I think in restaurants. And there's over 50 local businesses, I think, participating so far. So the library is partnering with them on this, and we're going to have a story walk in the Tribute Garden featuring a poetry book for kids. It's about farmers markets, which I figured that season is coming up soon, so that'll be cool to kind of push that a little bit. We're also going to have an activity in the library where people can write poems on leaves and attach them to a fake tree, and we're going to create a poet tree over the course of the month. So I think that'll be, I'm excited to see how that works.
And
I think
why
people
can't
will
you
like
use
that.
why can't you use a real tree?
Just because
I
I
just
don't
don't
think
know.
it would live. Although we
I just
did
I
have
have
a
to point it
Christmas
out.
tree.
Sorry.
Okay. My gardening skills aren't that great, and I was surprised the Christmas tree lasted as long as it did. I think that was a tribute to the place we got it from, not us. So, also we are hoping to have poetry classes and an open mic at the end of the month, but I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. Does anybody have any questions on that partnership or what we're doing there? Okay. So for programming, our programs, like I said at the beginning, are still crazy popular, which is really awesome. It's just super exciting to watch people sign up and come to these programs and enjoy them so much. So we had our Korean cooking class on Saturday, and we had 20 people come, and the feedback that we got was absolutely phenomenal. We recently held a Dia Beacon virtual tour of the art museum, and one attendee actually sent us a donation for holding the program. They said, "Thanks so much, terrific guides. It's been over a year since I've been able to visit a museum. I miss museums. This was a treat." Another patron offered feedback on our Middle Ages art program and said it was a fantastic program, and we're very grateful to the library for sponsoring it. So we just keep sending out surveys, and the feedback that we're getting is super helpful and tells us that we're on the right track and doing the right thing, and people are happy with it. So it's really encouraging. Kristen has started up the book club again, and the first meeting was really well received. That was something I think I mentioned at our last meeting that I really wanted to do, and I'm glad that she took that over. In April, we have lots of Earth Day and poetry programs planned. We're doing 3 Earth Day events, which we're all super excited about. Terry's teen craft programs are full yet again. She just keeps knocking them out of the park with what she's choosing to do, so I'm really happy with that. Avid's Arts and Crafters programs are particularly successful, and they've filled up in the past month. And we also introduced a drawing club that's run by a local illustrator, and those are also proving to be pretty popular. So just overall, I'm absolutely ecstatic with what's been going on here and what my staff members have been putting together. I'm really proud of them for thinking outside of the box in such creative ways and just really nailing it and give people what they want. So I'm very proud of them. And so my last thing is kind of a question that I had. Kristen and Abby have been partnered to create the poetry class for adults in April. This would be part of the thing that we were doing for the poetry line. And we really want Abby to be able to teach the class. Because she's a published poet, she has experience teaching adult writing classes, and she's really well qualified for it. And so this is something that Abby would be doing outside of her children's literacy coordinator position. So the question came up of whether or not we could compensate her for it as something like outside of her regular salary. So this is something that I wanted to bring up with you all and see what you think in terms of like ethics and conflict of interest. I can honestly say that I don't know anybody more qualified than Abby to teach this class, and I think that it would be great to expose her to the community more, just so people realize what great people we have working here. But I wanted to see what you all thought, if you thought that would be okay, or if maybe we should explore something else.
Thoughts?
So the question was for what, the faxing portion?
Oh no, this is for Abby teaching a poetry class for adults, and being compensated outside of her normal pay.
I think it's fine. It wouldn't have even, I couldn't have even thought up. I guess maybe it's a conflict of interest, but my first thought was that sounds like a great idea to me.
How would it be considered a conflict, Courtney, in your opinion?
Well, I was looking through our code of ethics policy and all of that, and it said, I think, I don't have the exact quote, but it said that employees should not be compensated outside of their approved amounts. So I thought this was something that could potentially fall into that. But if we approve it, then it's okay. So.
Oh, that's pretty specific. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that is pretty specific, that sentence there. I mean,
But if we approve, I mean, why wouldn't we use somebody that we already have, like you said, expose her more to the community if we can approve it, right? I don't know. I just think it's nice to use the people that we have that have knowledge and talent. Why would we hire somebody from outside? I don't know. That's just my 5 cents.
I do too. I think maybe we could say something to the effect of, I'm thinking, why was that sentence put in there in the code of ethics? And maybe this is a one-time thing that we could approve. I think maybe kind of hiring somebody for a whole other position that we pay them for, maybe we could approve this as a one-time thing and say that we acknowledge the code of ethics, but this doesn't seem to come.
What would be the problem with just approving like her just having additional hours?
I think she charges an hourly rate that's different from the current hourly rate that she has. So I think that would be the issue.
I mean, usually you go like above and beyond at your current rate, and then you do a great job, and then you get like a raise. I think contracting her out, especially when she already, we're providing her, in a sense, a captive audience through the Millbrook Library.
Well, another thought that I had, Mark, and maybe you could help me with this. I was thinking, since the Literary Festival was willing to put money towards the Poetry Line event, maybe they would be willing to fund Abby's poetry class instead, as like part of their involvement in it.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of how to make this work. Like, is it a matter of just increasing her wage proportionally? But you said this might just be for a month, right? It's not going to be.
Oh no, it's 3 classes. Yeah, it would be like a 3-class thing.
Okay.
I would think it would. Yeah, I'm stumbling on the same problem, because I think you can't just like boost her pay for her rate is the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, exactly, if she kept the same rate and had more hours, that's the easy one.
Could it come directly from one of our donations that was specifically for adult programming? I think we have at
No.
least one that's specific
I don't think
as
so.
sort of as something completely separate, not through the library as an employee, but as a just like we would pay anybody that came in and did anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, all she would have to do is just, if she gets a different amount from whatever she does regular, just like, incorporate planning time into doing it and anything like that, and just increase her hours kind of like respectively. I wouldn't feel comfortable like contracting out employees. So like say it's a 2-hour class, and it kind of like she would think she would make more, but then just add on like an hour in terms of her planning, because I'm sure there's more effort going into it and everything like that. And then if, when you come back and you show success, and we're just like, what, Abby should maybe be in partnership with the other adult teacher, or are we, okay, I don't know.
I do know from a teacher perspective, I don't know if it's helpful. I know Sarah and Cecilia probably know too. You get paid like an extra hour for your planning. That might be an option. I think that's what you're trying to talk about, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, how do we pay somebody if we hired somebody else to do these classes? How would we pay them? What money would we use to pay them?
Well, they would probably invoice us, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Can we not? She can't do that as a separate thing from her job as a community member?
Yeah, it sounds like you can't with that.
Yeah.
Kind of says that, but I think maybe we could say it's a long-term thing, and this is an exception. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't want to like say all this stuff and kind of stifle like someone that's trying to be, look outside the box and provide additional programs and everything like that. Like I don't want in that sense, but
it sounds like the idea of the festival perhaps funding it. I don't know if that's even possible, but that sounds like a good alternative. If maybe we want to see what the options are a little bit more. I don't know. What do we think?
Is there a source of money for that?
Well, I guess I'm the treasurer for the festival too.
Okay. All right.
But I wouldn't be the one to make the decision on that. I mean, I kind of, my treasury role with you guys is very different than the festival. The festival, I kind of just make sure their taxes get filed, and that's about it. They kind of make the decisions on their own. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely compensated authors and presenters at the literary festival and everything like that. So,
no,
that
seems like.
I don't want her to be having to reach out to outside organizations for providing programs that are essential for our community. And I mean, really, the Millbrook Library should be, the one backing these kind of programs, right? We shouldn't have to look for outside resources. Really, we should be the ones helping the literary festival and, all those non-for-profits, not the other way around. We don't, obviously, we don't need money from other non-for-profits.
What sort of money difference are we talking about between her pay rate and her consultation rate? Is it considerably more expensive?
Yeah, well, I think the thing was she was thinking of $50 per class for a total of $150, and that would cover like the planning and the actual classes and all that stuff. But like I told her that I'd bring it up and talk about it just to see what you all thought. But if it's not like a unanimous, comfortable decision, I can just say no, and we can figure something else out. And maybe the increasing hours is an option.
But I think I don't think anybody really disagrees. We're just trying to figure out how to make it work. Because I think $150 for 3 hours of work plus planning, that's like a bargain.
Yeah, honestly, I would just pay for her to do that as a donation just to her. But I also think we would have to figure this out long term. And one of the things that I've struggled with on other boards is setting precedents. So we just have to figure this out for, for the future, because it's going to happen. If anybody that works for the library wants to come in and teach, they should be paid unless they want to donate their time. So we just have to figure out how we would handle this going forward. I think as long as it's not a full-time job, she's not becoming like a full-time adult or poetry teaching adult class teacher, twice a month for the next 3 years. It's just a one-time thing. We should be able to word that in some way, right?
Yeah, I think we could say it as something like, it could be approved up to some limit of, I don't know, 6 classes a year or something. We could just make something up like that and set a precedent and a limit. And over that, maybe it still we wouldn't do it, but we could do it up to this amount.
So Courtney, what was the language, or what was that you were looking at regarding the compensation? Do you have that in front of you, or is that something we should look at a little bit?
No, give me 1 second. It's in my binder here. I can pull it up. All right, so it says, trustees and staff must avoid situations in which personal interests might be served or financial benefits gained at the expense of the library, patrons, or colleagues. Employees and volunteers will receive no compensation other than improved compensation. So that's the part where I was looking at, and I was like, I don't know.
I'm sorry. So they will receive no compensation other than
approved compensation.
Oh, approved.
Approved. I thought you said improved.
Oh no.
So by that you mean their salary?
Yes, that's what I like it to read.
That is pretty clear.
Now, I'm sorry to chime in. The donation idea Carrie had, I'd also be willing to $150. And I know I'm very new to this, but $150, it just seems like a very small matter for something that maybe this beneficial. I don't know. Just chiming in. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you, James.
I mean, Elizabeth does this through work all the time. She'll lead certain like environmental clubs or something like that, and she has to write up like a grant, and she'll get approved for it, and so it's like additional compensation for her time and effort for providing that program at her school. So that's in addition to her salary. So I mean, if we can formulate something where, as long as they write up something, it's like a grant, it's always presented to the board, and we can approve it. I mean, we need to also keep in mind we're responsible for the public, right? Like this isn't just our own money. So we got to do it in a way that it's presentable. It can withstand the scrutiny of Mid-Hudson Library System, the public, New York State, and everything like that. We don't want this to impact our ability to receive tax, or 414 or anything silly like that. So I would look about Courtney or Elizabeth or Sarah, what you guys do for grants, and kind of maybe share that information together to see what needs to be done, what we need to adjust in the policy to make this happen, because this is a great thing for the community. I think Abby is probably doing, it's probably, all the best intentions and everything like that, of course. And we want to be able to make sure that it can continue to work and happen all the time. I mean, if every month we're getting 2 grants for additional classes that are being, well attended and, helpful to the community, we want to make sure we, provide that vehicle, and, we want the growth. So.
I think there's a difference between the grants and, let's say, like a club as an additional stipend. I think it's negotiated ahead of time that money's set aside, which is maybe what you're saying we could try to sort out for the future moving forward, like for situations like this?
Mhm. So I mean, right now, what Courtney read off is that one very basic sentence. You know what I mean? So we just need to know what approved means, like if it's in addition to the salary and how we want to word that and approve it.
So it sounds like we should do a little bit more research, and Courtney, I'm happy to help make that happen. And then, we'll figure out what our deadline is on this, right? Which is, it's coming up, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's time sensitive. So I mean, this could be, once you kind of have something together, it will definitely be like, just the email will approve it
Right.
and make sure. Yeah.
All right.
Frankly,
So
I'm surprised this hasn't come up before because we have so many people come and teach and, not necessarily employees, but do we ever pay people from outside the library to come in and teach?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah.
So we pay that. Okay. All right. So we have a system in place, just not this particular system.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
does that make sense to everybody that we can do a little bit more research and then follow up with whatever we find, and we'll share it with everyone and make a decision by email? Does that sound okay?
Yes,
Absolutely.
whatever you come up with, I'm gonna approve it.
Well, we want to see how we can make this happen. So that's what
Yes.
we're going.
Yes, definitely.
100%. Mhm.
All right, thank you all. I know that was kind of exhaustive, but I just felt like I couldn't really make a decision by myself without asking all of you and just
No, that's
making
good.
sure that I was doing things right. So
Good.
thank you. Moving on, sustainability. Our group met last month, and we're making steady progress. We've developed an environmental sustainability policy, which I think Jody's going to talk about a little bit later. And now comes up my fax machine question. So right now our fax machine is broken, and we technically need to provide fax services as a public library. So instead of buying a new machine, we used something at Pleasant Valley when I was there after the fire called myfax.com. And it was basically because we couldn't run a fax line into the building, but it ended up being a lot easier than using the fax machine. So I asked Daniela, the director there, about it, and she told me what it was and everything. So basically, for a little under $100 a year, we can send faxes by scanning documents and sending them through email. And I think this is also a service that we can charge for, and it would essentially pay for itself over the course of the year, hopefully. So I was thinking the first 2 pages would be free, and then we could charge $1 a page after that. But I wanted to know what you all thought and get your opinions on it.
Fax is a dead technology.
Yeah, I would agree. But we actually have a surprising number of people that call asking for it, and I think this is a way that we can kind of support that and meet our minimum standards, but also not have to buy like another machine.
Yeah,
because nobody has faxes anymore.
Yeah, I hate fax machines. This is a way to not have a fax machine. Sounds good.
Doctor's offices love fax machines for some reason.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think schools
Never
still have
work.
their fax machines too. Hate to say it.
They never
I mean,
work.
most businesses will accept like a scan document to their email or yeah, but yeah, I'm just throwing out there. So I wouldn't invest any money in faxing.
Yeah, I would prefer not to, but New York State still wants us to.
All right.
Well, I think this sounds like a good alternative to me.
Yeah.
That's the copy machine. Are you not able to fax with the photocopy machine?
No, I don't believe so.
You could look into it. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's fancy enough that it can. I mean, my my banking.
It's going to require a dedicated phone line, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
I probably have the phone line there already.
Yeah, I fax with my copy machine all the time, and I have a big old fancy copier, and we fax with it all the time, and I get incoming faxes with it. I wouldn't say all the time, but it happens once in a while.
I think how it's set up right now, there's not an option, but I could look to see if that could be an option.
Yeah, I mean, if not, I mean, I don't see what's wrong with myfax.com.
Okay,
As
so
long
I'll
as
do
it
some
works,
more research
yeah.
on that, and I'll figure out if our coffee machine can do it, and then I'll report back and probably over email, and hope you can all vote then.
Yeah, I think you could also probably get a used fax machine for like $5.
Yeah, I don't I don't know if I want to use fax machine. Just like I kind of share Kay's opinion. I'm not really a fan, and I think the staff really isn't either. Just we know how to scan things and we know how to send emails, so that seemed like a lot easier. So I do have a brief update on Unionville. There is a group of people in the town that will like to look into having a 414 vote to take the library budget out of the town's control. And this year, a new law was just put in place that they would only need 25 signatures on a petition to get on the ballot instead of the normal amount, which is usually like a percentage of the number of people who voted in the last election. So I just wanted to let you know this is something that's being talked about. It's kind of on my radar, and just to give you a heads up. I don't really have anything else about it right now, but I just wanted to make you all aware of it.
So they don't know the timing of that, if it were to go forward, when that would be?
No, not yet. And that is all I have.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Are there any questions for Courtney? Any other questions or comments or before we move on? All right, thanks again. Going back to our agenda, we don't have any communication or correspondence to report this evening. And so then I would turn it over to Mark for our financials. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was busy the last couple of weeks, so I really didn't get to look at the financials. And when I kind of got to them, they're I guess incomplete a little bit. So I don't think we saw anything for monthly bills for this month. I didn't see that email.
Courtney sent them around. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent it right before the meeting because I realized that I hadn't done it, but it was like 6:30.
6:30. Okay. Can I add that to like? I just want to look at them, and I'll send an email to approve them like tomorrow. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. And also for the financial reports, I was able to review the January 2021 financials that I sent out at like 5 o'clock, pretty late as well. So the main thing is, our government support. We'll be looking to get that soon from the town of Washington in early April, and then another portion of it in August. So it's currently at 0%. That's fine. Contribution income is double of what we have budgeted because I know Courtney's outreach is fantastic and people love the library. Grants is also up 330%. We just added that to our budget. Obviously, we've exceeded that right away. And interest income and all other operating income is kind of where it needs to be. We're 8% of the way through the year after 1 month. And it aligns perfectly with our total income is at 8.2%. And our expenses to budget, everything is right around 7 to 9%. The only two items that kind of really stuck out were taxes and employee benefits. I guess we didn't have budgeted for, and we'll definitely have to put this on the 2022 budget, Family Leave Act. So that has pushed up that number. It's higher percentage, but it's not really a big amount of money. And then so our total expenses are at 7.2, which is good. So our net ordinary income, we're at 2.2% of our budgeted. So that's also very good since we were budgeting a loss. New business, Courtney submitted the PPP loan forgiveness. Usually takes 4 to 6 weeks before it's forgiven. but it's pretty automatic. And I guess had Erica's name on there again. Yeah, Courtney, what you sent me, I guess Erica kind of updates it, and whatever you print, like the January is when we're completed, and when you tried to print February for me, like she didn't come in to complete her work, so it was kind of like half blank and everything like that. So
yeah, I think she's coming in on this Thursday, so it should be done by then, I think.
Yeah, no, that's usually the usual operation for it, so that's fine. And yeah, so if I could get a motion to approve the January 2021 financials, or if anyone has any questions, sorry.
I see Kay had made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. I can second. Or Sarah.
Sarah? All in favor to approve the report?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. James said yes. All right. All in favor? Good. All right. And then so be on the lookout for the bills and we'll approve them by email. Thanks.
Yes.
So I'm just going to go through and see if we have any committee reports. I have two things, but I'll go in order here. Is there anything that Building and Grounds has to report today?
Yes, the Altieri engineer from Aaron Martin from Altieri is coming to Millbrook tomorrow. Meet in our office. But if the library is open, I want to bring him up there, Courtney.
Okay, we'll be here. I'll be here probably at like between 10:30 and 11 tomorrow, and we open at 12, and we're here till 8 tomorrow.
Okay, because he says he has some preliminary stuff he's done, and he wants to review with me, and then we're going to go there and look at things. So that's it. That's all I have to report. So that's in progress. The HVAC and lighting study.
Oh my gosh, it's finally happening. I've been on here, what, 3 years? And then it had already been going on then.
Wow,
Yay.
well,
Progress.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
Is there anything that development or fundraising or friends has to report or have anything to bring up tonight? No. Long range planning, I think I mentioned our Turning Outward training starts this week, so we're going to start that process. Does nominating have anything they want to bring up this evening? Nope. Okay. Personnel, I don't have anything. Policy, I sent around a draft policy. The Sustainability Committee has drafted this, which is a requirement as part of our effort, our sustainability effort. I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at it. It's pretty straightforward. We state our commitment to environmental stewardship and sustainable business operations, and just what our goals are, making sure our staff is engaging in procedures and programs, and then kind of lay out energy management, materials management, transportation, land use, and water reduction and conservation. So it's just very simple and I think broad enough to be evergreen to some degree, but we can always look at it as needed. But we wanted to have this to be a start as part of this sustainability project or process. So does anybody have any questions about the policy?
How did you guys come up with all of this? I mean, was there a template or did you have to actually go through each one? What was the process?
Well, we did start out with a template that came through Mid-Hudson Library System, and we kind of tweaked it to make it a little bit our own. And then there were certain areas that we had to include in the policy. And so we tried to do that with this draft here. Courtney, is there anything you want to add about the process or about what we're doing here?
Nope, you got it.
Okay, terrific. So if there's no other questions or comments about it, I'd like to put it up for a vote to approve the environmental sustainability policy. Do I have
Question.
a motion?
Is this, this isn't mandated or anything. This is something we're doing on our own?
Yes,
I think
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a goal that the library has that we want, we want to move towards sustainability, and it's part of a process that that we're going through. We have a committee that's mostly made up of library staff, and Courtney is leading the effort. So
one question I have is, so I mean, these are kind of just broad statements. I mean,
right.
in reality, to actually like this, do we set up like, is the library going to be setting up like, okay, we're using this much energy today, by 2025 we want to be only using X amount of energy, or our carbon footprint will be, from now till then at this reduction rate? You know what I mean? Actual goals, things, objectives to meet, as opposed to we want to try to be greener, but it's kind of vague, so we end up not really doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Michael Sloan could bring in his that partner tomorrow, and they could suggest, instead of changing the lights to something conservative, they should use oil candles or something.
Well, we could sit there. I mean, I can ask. No, I'm saying we could ask Aaron, like, when I'm there, just ask him, like, hey, if we switch out all the fluorescent lights to LEDs, is there any money from Central Hudson?
Well, I think the environmental policy is just like the tip of the iceberg, kind of. There's over 100 things that we actually need to complete and say that we're doing, that will actually force us to make these changes, instead of just saying, oh, we think these would be a good idea. And I think one of the things on there is like changing out the light bulbs when possible, like when they die and everything, and recycling. And there's a whole thing on energy use and the green purchasing. So one of the things that I've been working on is there's kind of like a report that we have to fill out 2 years worth of data for, of greenhouse gas emissions, water use, waste, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's something that I've been working on, so we can see where we are and like measure it in the future. So yes, basically, the policy is not just like the only part of this. There's a whole bunch more that the sustainability team is working on, to make sure that we actually take action instead of just talking.
Is there any way to like kind of incorporate that language to the policy, that there's quantifiable goals in mind, or is there something?
Well, I think the goal with the policy is to keep it as broad as possible, just so that way it's not something that we have to revisit often. I could definitely add like the things that we need to do in there, but I think the goal was just to keep it broad and then just complete the stuff as we do it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I hear what Michael's saying. Like, is this something that ExxonMobil could write up this environmental sustainability policy, and then are they really going to do anything? But I understand you have all those other commitments. I mean, I guess I'd be more interested to hear about those than this.
Well, the only thing I would comment on is, like, for example, energy management, because I see this in my own practice, where we go as an architect, we put in more energy efficient equipment, light bulbs and everything, and the institution ends up using, yes, we have all more energy efficiency, but they end up using more energy because of their operation, meaning just because they have more energy efficiency, sometimes that doesn't translate into being more green. Just because it sometimes get less, they don't use those things correctly, or they just use more hours of those things. Meaning, like, a perfect example would be, yes, we have more energy efficient HVAC system, but instead of being at 68, they've turned it up to 70. So we neglected, you know what I mean, the energy efficiency that we just implemented.
Well, I can say for lighting as an example, some of the things that we need to do are one of them is turn off lights when not in use, post signage to remind occupants. Another one is reduce lighting where daylight is sufficient. Another one is use task lighting like desk lamps instead of overhead lighting, as task lights consume far less energy than a typical overhead lighting fixture. So the checklist that we're following kind of takes that into account, where we have to do those things too, instead of just converting the lighting to more energy efficient lighting.
Yeah, I can visit that with you a little bit closer, because that's sometimes not always true, because task lights, unless they're LED, can if they're incandescent and your overheads are LED, that'd be a good example where we're not being as energy efficient.
Gotcha.
So I think the goal of the policy is to be broad enough where we can, then delve more specifically into such issues like lighting or whatever the issue will be, but that it's sort of just kind of saying, this is our general goal that we're going to work toward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the actual policy. It's general. I'm just saying, I was more commenting on actually making it real.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the sustainability's committee's hope and work to get there, to get going in that direction. So, any other comments or questions? Can we have a motion to approve the policy as distributed? Nikki?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Great. Terrific. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who seconded.
Oh, there was Kay. I would say Kay. She had her hand up first.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there any other new business that anyone has to bring up this evening? Okay, hearing none, I would make a motion for us to adjourn our meeting. Second? Cecilia?
Yay, I got
Well, thank you
myself in.
everybody for the meeting. Thank you, Mark, for having Meredith come join us. I thought that was a very helpful report. And we'll look forward to the couple pieces of business that we have out there that we'll finish up by email between now and our next meeting.
Thank you.